Hey everyone, and welcome. So whether you've been guiding for years or you're just getting your feet wet, this is going to be your go-to guide for absolutely acing the birding and ethnobotany quiz. We're going to walk through everything you need to know, not just to pass, but to really master this stuff. So what we're going to do is break down all the core ideas, pulling them straight from your study notes and training material. My goal here is pretty simple. By the time we're done, you're not just going to know the right answers, you'll get the why behind them. And that's how we turn knowledge into real solid confidence when you're out in the field.
All right, so here's our plan. We'll kick things off with some quiz prep essentials. Then we're going to dive deep into mastering bird identification. After that, we'll explore the amazing world of ethnobotany and then talk about how to get guests hooked on conservation. We'll wrap it all up with a quick readiness check to make sure you're totally set to go.
Okay, let's dive right in. Look, our goal here isn't just about memorizing facts to get through a quiz. It's about building a really deep, intuitive understanding of what makes a great guide. We want to master this material so it just becomes second nature out there.
All right, let's get into our first big topic, mastering bird ID. Now, this is a huge part of your quiz, and trust me, it's so much more than just, spotting a bird and slapping a name on it. We're going to look at how to decode the whole story that a bird is telling us. Okay, so your study notes really hammer this home, and it's a huge point. Real bird identification is basically like being a detective. It is not just about what a bird looks like. You have to use all the clues: its call, the way it's behaving, and where you found it, its habitat. This holistic approach is absolutely fundamental, and it's the key to nailing question 3 on your quiz.
So that's the what. But what about the how? How do we actually share this awesome skill with our guests? The quiz is going to ask you for the best way to teach this, so let's break down a super simple but really powerful process you can use on every single game drive.
And this is it, the 3-step method that's not only the heart of great teaching, but also, hint, hint, the answer to question 12. First, get your guests to look for key field marks. Like that bright flash of color on a wing. Step 2, guide them to listen for distinct sounds. Is it a sharp little chirp or a long flowing song? And finally, step 3, have them watch for unique behaviors. Is it digging for grubs on the ground? Is it busy building a nest? When you do this, you're not just giving them a name, you're teaching them the actual art of observation.
And this is where it gets really cool, right? Because a bird's actions, they tell a story about the entire ecosystem. And that's why this is the answer for question 4. When you see a bird making an alarm call, it might be telling you there's a leopard nearby. If it's feeding in a specific tree, that tells you what fruits are in season. Every single behavior is a little clue to a much bigger ecological puzzle.
Now, when it comes to migration, and you're going to see this in question 9, the absolute worst thing you can do is make it sound like birds are just randomly flying around. The key, the effective way, is to connect it to the 2 big drivers, the changing seasons and the never-ending search for food. It's a strategic survival mission, perfectly tuned to nature's calendar. And that's the kind of story that people really remember.
Okay, so we've had our eyes on the skies. Now, let's bring our focus down to the ground beneath our feet. We're moving into the incredible world of ethnobotany, and we're going to explore that deep, deep connection between plants, people, and the whole safari experience.
So, what in the world is ethnobotany? Well, at its core, it's the study of how people use the native plants around them. And this is exactly what you need to know for question 5. It gives us this incredible window into things like traditional medicine and local ecology. It's what turns a simple plant into this rich story of culture, survival, and science.
And that brings us to a really important question from your quiz. I think it's number 7. Why is it so important to talk about plants? It's a great question, right? Why stop for a tree when there might be a lion just around the corner?
The answer is because the plants are the story. They aren't some sideshow. They are the literal stage the whole drama plays out on. That giraffe you're watching is eating that specific acacia tree, which also provides a home for nesting birds, which, in turn, are eating the insects that pollinate the flowers. It's all connected, and the plants are where it all begins.
All right, so for question 8, you'll want to remember this simple 3-part formula for introducing any plant to your guests. First, talk about its ecological role. What does it do for the environment? Then cover its medicinal uses, like how an aloe plant can soothe a burn. And finally, its cultural significance. Is it part of local stories or traditions? Do that, and you've just turned a boring old plant into a point of total fascination.
Okay, this is where we tie everything together. We've got the knowledge about birds, we've got the knowledge about plants, but how do we share it in a way that really hooks our guests and connects them to the bigger picture of conservation?
This is how we take a game drive from just being great to being truly unforgettable.
And the answer to question 6 really nails it. It's all about storytelling. It's not about just rattling off a list of species names. It's about weaving a story. For instance, that's not just a yellow-billed hornbill. That's a farmer of the forest, a critical seed disperser that's helping to regrow the entire landscape. See? That's a story that sticks.
So, question 11 on the quiz is going to ask you something that might seem a bit odd at first. Why bother talking about insects and plants when the focus is on birding? It might feel like you're going off topic, but these tiny little players are actually central to the whole story.
And this is why. Just look at this. It's the perfect illustration of that whole web of life we talk about. You've got the plants that need insects for pollination, you've got the birds, like this incredible bee eater, that need those insects for food, and then the plants rely on the birds to spread their seeds. When you point that out, you're showing your guests the invisible engine that makes the whole ecosystem run.
And that brings us to question 10. And honestly, this is probably the most powerful conservation tool you have as a guide. It's about making the connection personal. When you explain that a specific bird, say a gray go-away bird, absolutely needs a particular acacia tree to build its nest, you make the huge concept of habitat loss feel real and tangible. All of a sudden, that one tree means survival. You're not just teaching about birds, you're actually inspiring conservation.
Whew. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So now it's time for a quick final readiness check, just to make sure all these ideas are locked in. I'm going to throw a few questions your way. Just pause after each one and see if you can answer it in your own words. You've got this.
All right, first one. In your own words, can you explain why ethnobotany is so important for a safari guide? Think about how it connects to traditional medicine and the local ecology. How would you explain its value to a guest? Go ahead and pause here. Okay, next up. Can you reel off those 3 key things we need to teach guests about bird identification? What are the 3 things we should encourage them to observe? And remember, think beyond just what they can see. Pause and see if you can name all 3.
And for the last one, I want you to tell the story. How does talking about a tiny insect during a bird sighting actually teach a powerful lesson about conservation? I want you to connect all the dots starting with the insect. Go ahead and pause and try to map out that story.
Okay, if you could tackle those questions, even just in your head, then you are absolutely ready. You've gone over all the core principles you need to succeed. And remember, this knowledge isn't just for a quiz, it's the foundation for creating those incredible, meaningful experiences for every single guest you guide. You've got this. Now go apply that knowledge with confidence.